This is Golf Bravo 2 Romeo Sierra, the news broadcasting service of the Radio Society of Great Britain. The 2nd of April 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the Argentine invasion of the Falkland Islands. On that day in 1982, Bob McLeod, Victor Papa 8 Lima Papa, living at Goose Green, was hearing on a local VHF net that invading troops could be seen in the streets of the capital Port Stanley, about 50 miles from him, but was surprised to find that the BBC was making no mention of it in news broadcasts. Bob took to his shortwave amateur radio equipment and started calling out. In London, Laurie Margolis, Golf 3 Uniform Mike Lima, had been listening carefully for several hours, sitting in the BBC aerial radio group radio room, Golf 3 Alpha Yankee Charlie, on the roof of the Langham building next to Broadcasting House. G3UML had some expectation that VP8LP would try to call, and they were able to copy each other. Laurie was then able to pass on Bob's vital information to the authorities.
As I walked into the newsroom, there was clearly, the low level of sort of hysteria going on, because there was clearly this massive story going on that nobody knew whether it was true or not, or what it was all about. And a couple of the senior editors, the guys I work for, said, can you get in touch with the Falkland Islands? The Argentines have said they've invaded. All we have heard about is a very brief message, I think, from Cable and Wireless, just saying something like, we have new friends or something. Can you get in touch with the Falklands through your amateur radio? Over the road, in what is now the Langham Hotel, there was an old building called the Langham. And on the top of the Langham was quite a big aerial. And they had some fairly good equipment up there as well, in a horrible, dusty old room, room 701, which was full of junk and dust and old magazines and old electronic equipment. But I guess I was up there by myself and listening up and down and hearing various stuff, but nothing at all. I thought, there's no way, if this place has been invaded, there's a foreign army taking this place over, there's no way somebody's going to be sitting on shortwave radio talking merrily back to London. And I hear a voice, and it was speaking English with a rather distinctive accent, and I thought, hello. And it was obvious he was in the Falklands. And I thought, whoa. I called it over the top and said, I'm at the BBC in central London. There was a sort of a pause, and he came back. He said, hi, Laurie. Why is the BBC saying they don't know if there's been an invasion? The Argentinians have taken over. The governor is held captive. There are Argentinian troops all over town. There's an Argentinian warship in the bay. The broadcasting station's broadcasting in Spanish, and there's an Argentine flag flying over Port Stanley. I thought, right, okay.
Cable and wireless transmitting station. There is no communication between Falklands and England.
This was the first real confirmation from the islands of what had happened. The first thing they had.
Any invasion. They're still denying any invasion. That's the main point we want to get through. It has happened, and it is all completed. We are now taken over. The Golf Bravo 100 BBC. Victor Papa 8 Lima Papa.
Yeah, okay, very good, Bob. VP8LP from Golf Bravo 100 Bravo Bravo Charlie. Golf Bravo 100 Bravo Bravo Charlie. GB 100 BBC. Bob, what are your thoughts this morning? Over?
Yeah, very fine, Laurie. Golf Bravo 100 BBC. Victor Papa 8 Lima Papa. You're back 5657, Laurie. And thank you very much for coming up with your special event call sign.
Okay, Laurie, well, I think our feelings are very, very different to 40 years ago. 40 years ago, it was just very sort of desperation to get the information out. and when we made contact with you and got the rest of the world to understand that the invasion had taken place. But today everybody is very happy, very different attitude. Everyone is preparing and all kinds of exciting events for the rest of the time. A Golf Bravo 100 BBC, Victor Papa 8 Lima Papa in Port Stanley on the Falkland Islands.
A GB 100 BBC. Bob, just take me back to 40 years ago. This morning, 40 years ago, when we were talking, you were telling me about the invasion, and it was all came as news to us, an absolute bombshell. What were your feelings that morning, Bob? Over.
We're fine, Laurie. Yeah, well, I think the feelings this morning are a little bit excited. Everyone is planning all kinds of events. There is a lot of excited and happy thoughts going on at the moment. Very, very different to what it was 40 years ago, when it was quite a miserable type of feeling.
Yeah, very good, Bob. Lovely copy now. VP8LP in Port Stanley from GB 100 BBC in London. Tell us about what happens over the next couple of months. I know you commemorate many of the landings and the final victory. Tell us about what happens over the next couple of months, Bob. Over.
VP8 Lima Papa returning. I think from our point of view, the Amateur Radio Society will be very active around the 21st of May.
22 hours, Greenwich Mean Time. BBC World Service. The news read by John Gordon.
Britain says its troops are ashore on the Falkland Islands in substantial numbers and have established a firm bridgehead. There's reported to have been fierce fighting throughout the day. The British Defence Secretary, Mr. Knott, has said that British troops are now firmly established back on the Falkland Islands, just 7 weeks after the Argentine invasion.
And they will also have a fairly big party, I understand, on the 14th of June, of course.
Ceasefire in the Falklands. The Argentine junta says the fighting stopped until tomorrow afternoon. No confirmation from London. General Moore, his troops bearing down on Port Stanley, meets General Menendez, his troops on the run. We have pictures of British reinforcements going ashore at the San Carlos bridgehead.